Hey nerds, how's it going? Quick announcement before the episode tonight. Coming at you, October 22nd, we're going to be streaming our live performance from San Diego Comic-Con. It's a very special one-of-a-kind one-shot with some cool announcements attached to it, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. That's 7 p.m. Pacific on YouTube and Twitch. And the week after that, October 29th, we're going to be streaming our Gen Con live performance, which is the Key to the Universe crew a couple days after they left Boworth Island in the middle of the ocean. What could possibly go wrong? And then the week after that, November 5th, we're going to start streaming part 2 of Key to the Universe. So we're getting up to a lot of cool stuff before the end of the year. You're not going to want to miss out. That's Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Pacific. If you can't be there for the stream, you can still catch the episode, of course, released the following Monday morning on YouTube and podcasting platforms. But if you want to get early access to those things, you can become a YouTube member or a Twitch subscriber, and you will be able to catch those episodes as they release. So please join us there. I can't wait to share with you all the cool stuff we're getting up to before the end of the year. And then soon enough, Campaign 2 will be upon us, and we're just going to go full bananas mode. Lots of stuff to look forward to. Thanks so much, nerds. Enjoy this episode of Mastering the Game.
Hello, and welcome to Mastering the Game.
I'm Seth.
I'm Shane.
We did that in sync. That was great. That was perfect.
This is going to get more cartoonish every time.
Right? We're going to go like doing this.
Today, the topic of discussion, this was one that I sort of pulled from, we've been putting out little requests for scenes that we want to discuss.
Big things from the show, big themes from the show to
Yes,
our community.
yeah. And so, among other things, like they've asked questions about like what's it like, the difference between being a player and a DM and stuff like that. So we can kind of talk about those things loosely. But one of the scenes that was requested, and I mentioned this before, and I don't know if I nailed it on what I pulled, but it'll be the subject of discussion. Is Warlocks.
Yep.
As a whole, my note about this episode says Warlocks. Am I right? Because there's such a
that is a broad bucket.
It's a potent source from which much discussion may come.
That is certainly true. Yeah. I feel like Warlocks are like, man, they are such an interesting and like contested and like, man, they're just a very interesting subject matter to dive into because they come full, they're very charged, I think.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Maybe more so than any other class, excepting maybe like Cleric and Paladin. You know what I mean? Like they're very.
I think more so. I think there's no class. This is my hot take.
Oh yeah.
This is my hot take.
Spicy.
There is no class more like predestined. There's no class more predestined in its narrative than a Warlock.
Yeah.
There is something fundamental. And it's like, there's, of course, 100 million ways you can play it out. Mm-hmm. But fundamentally, you're either a Warlock who hates their patron and is going to have an arc against their patron, or like adores and admires their patron and is going to have an arc either discovering that their patron is not great, or some like Rebecca once played this was a paladin, but you can do this as Warlock as well. She played a paladin to this like evil god, and she was in love with the god, and then of course the culmination of that is they get married at the end. You know, like there's that kind. There's those are kind of the only ways really that you can play a Warlock. I shouldn't paint with such a broad brush, but those are the sort of built-in. Yeah. I think Warlock is like a good class to start with because you don't have to do much work on the front end of what your narrative's going to be. It's like, I have this power. It's not like from the most reliable source, and I feel a certain way about it.
I think it's easy to get to the heart of very quickly, right? When you're having that discussion, like, because it's like, I want to play a Warlock. Cool. What's the nature of your relationship with your patron? Like, first, you know what I mean? It's just like, how are we going to manifest that? What does that look like? Like, it's so like, and I mean, again, similarly, right? It's just like, okay, what's your relationship like with your god? Like, what's your relationship? And that's Paladin and Cleric. But there is
so
something
much more
unique.
personal with a Warlock, I think.
Well, because like in I think again in the established lore, in the all of the stuff, right? Like I think in the monster manual and in the Dungeon Master's Guide and in all of the source material, there is no class is alluded to in the monster manual as often as Warlocks are.
Interesting.
Right? Like when you look at the monster manual and you look at the Dungeon Master's Guide and you're talking about like certain elements of the game, right? Like Eldritch, like for reasons. I was looking at a certain type of monster not too long ago.
Yeah.
And it basically Warlocks was like a word in the monsters lore.
Yeah.
Look at the like the patron choices, right? You've got the great old one, right? Evil. The fiend, evil. The archfey.
Debatable, but
like
probably
morally
kind of
gray,
evil.
right? Hexblade, probably evil.
Probably
like
evil,
the
yeah.
only one that's not is the celestial,
Yeah.
really. And then like genie, odds are like if you read every
Kinda
like
fucked up.
merit, I think jinn are the closest, and they're like neutral,
Yeah.
or like you know what I mean, like in their stat block. Right now, again,
Right.
alignment is fluid and can be changed.
And story is whatever you make it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But like it's just like when you read through, it's like okay, evil, twisted good, maybe
Right.
kind of sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I love interesting fae patrons and like that weird fluidity of morality that they can have. Like I do,
Really?
right? Yeah, I do.
Oh, really?
I do. And but you know there it is like you know great old ones are bad generally speaking.
Generally
like,
speaking.
Fiends bad.
Bad.
Almost always, like
Yeah.
always actually.
Yeah, fiends. Yep.
You know, archfey.
Archfey.
I would say 80% of the time.
Negotiable.
Yeah, 80% of the time by any like what we would view as like a
right, 'cause
relatable
they
standard
would have
of morality.
some kind of passive neutrality toward the suffering of mankind, right?
Exactly,
Like that's the problem. is
Yeah.
No matter what, they're going to be a little bit like above it all.
Through the lens of like a human story,
Yes.
an archfey is arguably bad, right? There, and I think it's an easy point to make. Genie,
Unless you
want
to do like the like Great Fairy Fountain in Legend of Zelda or something, where they're like sort of outside of things, but they're like trying to help. I guess you could do that kind of.
Yeah, and like
thing.
you could totally do right, like a fucking ultra good human warlock, patron of the celestial, or like archfey patron.
Do like a fairy themed warlock.
You could do it absolutely. But again, like that, and then but now. You know, like it's one of those things where it's like, well, does the friction in their narrative and that character's narrative come from their relationship with their patron?
Right.
And it's like probably not now, right? Like, so it's a very interesting thing, and like, of course, there's no right or wrong way to play any of the classes.
No.
But I would tend to agree that like by and large, right?
The
like,
suggestion is built in.
It's kind of a. Like, yeah, are you an evil character who's going to eventually succumb to the desires of your patron?
Right. Yeah.
Or are you a good neutral that is going to lean towards good
or
and
even
thus
like evil
break?
rebellious,
Yeah,
right? Like,
evil
like,
rebellious.
oh, I want the power for myself, you
yeah,
know, right?
which
You could do that too.
We've experienced that ourselves, right? Like in the show is like, and that's an arc that you can kind of go through.
Yeah.
But yeah, warlocks but like the fun thing about warlocks is like, I think the manifestation of that can be very different, and in each individual player and like what they want out of it and how that can kind of manifest. But yeah, it's like an interesting class. It's a very, very interesting class, and I like that. I like it, but I also like I want to do it always with like a player who has kind of maybe like. I don't say they're right, but like a mindset around that I want to engage with,
right,
as a GM,
right.
But you know what I mean, like because I feel like there's a way you can go about it.
Do you think this is like one of my like questions that when I first like wrote down this possibility as a topic is like one of the first questions that came to mind was like, is there an intrinsic main character syndrome?
Yes.
You know, there just is, right?
I just think there is.
There just is.
I mean, and again, it's like, you know, typically, right? I mean, yeah, like either, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like this is a natural consequence of I think any story.
Yes.
Right? Like someone's backstory, right, is going to be more closely tied up
100%.
in the main thrust of whatever story you're trying to tell, right? In the broad scope of the campaign.
Right. Sure.
Right? Like, it's just the way it is, right? Like, because, like, you know, like, a character may come and they may say, like, this is the character I really want to play.
Yeah.
And you as the DM want to tell, you know, this story, and this idea is great, but it's, like, kind of out here.
Right.
And then you kind of got to figure out how to, like, fold it in a way that's organic and feels good.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, still does the story justice and has the character actualized in the way that they want to.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, there's also characters who like are on that track, and I feel like Warlock is just like by its construction,
yes,
and through its nature, almost always is
it
there.
just has such a strong potential to strong arm the plot into some kind of, like we're talking about, some kind of conflict with the patron, which if you're doing it, if you want to give it the requisite narrative weight, it's going to take multiple sessions, you know, like there's just an element of that where, you know, and I would say like in terms of like what main character syndrome like represents for players of this game is like, and the way that backstories can or may or may not be incorporated in the main storyline, I think the players also have a responsibility to try and make their characters' backstory inform their investment in the main storyline as well, right? There's an element of that too. So I don't think it's like solely on it's not the Warlock's fault in that way, you know. But I do think there is this kind of the other element of Warlocks, I think, that makes it lean in that direction is that the conflict is like within the character, right? The character is in conflict with a creature played by the DM. And so there's just nothing happening for the rest of the party with regard to that conflict, right? Unless you can build things around that.
And that is a challenging needle to thread. And I think like like again, and this is not, man, I feel like I'm gonna piss somebody off no matter what I say in this episode.
I know it's a tough one,
but
right?
It's a tough one to navigate, and it's because, like, to your point, it's just like I think that if we were to weight, right, the horror stories on Reddit, right, like there is a statistically significant number of those stories that include Warlocks.
I haven't read Rebecca's banned me from reading them so that I can get fresh takes. You know, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it would be statistically significant, and I think that's because, right, to your point, like, there's a few like Warlocks have this kind of almost built-in like very strong main storyline thrust, right, just built into them, and it's like, and almost no matter what, right? Because it's like, okay, if the player does a good job of tying their character's backstory into the main thrust of the campaign, now like you have that, right, where your character's like really tied in. And there are other classes that like have a proclivity towards that too. Like,
for sure.
You know, like I would say like Cleric and Paladin tend to do the same thing.
Part of the reason that I picked Cleric for Campaign 1 was because I was like, it's such an opportunity to have a unique relationship with the DM. Right? Like, as a cleric, you get to have this kind of like access to the DM in a different way than the rest of the party, right? And I think that, and like, there was no shortage of that for Kellic, right? It was really a beautiful thing to be able to explore. Talked about it a little bit in the Gods episode.
We did,
But yeah, certainly those things are not exclusive to the Warlock, right? Like,
not exclusive to, but man, it's like I said, it's just so charged.
I think it has to do with the nature of it, right? Being the antagonistic element of it, like between the Warlock and the patron, like this sort of like, that is the default, right? And that is not a criticism or a judgment. I have played that Warlock multiple times, you know? But there's just, because of that, it is this kind of thing where it's also like, you're going to hide it from the rest of the party, right? So now it's not a thing that the rest of the party can like be a part of easily, right? They have to kind of force their way in there in a way that isn't very yes-andy. It's not very collaborative storytelling, like not by default, right?
And
like,
it feels like, and
it takes tact to navigate.
Yeah, and to your point, right? Like, it's like, that's an interesting, that presents an additional, like, I don't want to say hurdle, but like an additional maybe potential pitfall, right? Is that like there's to speak to a previous episode's topic, which is like agency, right? It's like, well, how do I, as an additional player, get involved in your backstory and your relationship with this patron, and like feel like I have investment in your character and their part in this story, without maybe risking, right, the potential of like trotting on that agency in micro and macro ways. Like, totally, there's a lot of that there, right? And it's just like, I think that I would say that of any class, it's not bad nor good, but I do think that the Warlock, if I'm being super honest, has more intrinsic pitfalls than any other class.
I would agree.
It's just more intrinsic pitfalls. That like, there's just
traps.
There's like, just traps there.
Traps
there's
for the
more
player
traps
and for the DM. Just that you can't, that are just like, you have to be super conscientious to avoid them. And the one thing that occurred to me while you were talking about that was that like, there is, there is the bright side of a player that doesn't really know how to invest, you know, and having that as like an easy way in, or like a party of players that are kind of nervous and like don't really know how to like be involved, and so it's just like, oh, we all like, it's an easy thing to decide how you feel about, right? Like one of the tips I give for immersion in like our rules as listen video is like, decide how your character feels about things, right? Do they like mushroom soup? Do they like rainy weather? You know, these are like simple things that can give you just guideposts as you're going through the story, because you're going to interact with stuff. Like once I was like, Kellic likes bland food. Like anytime food came up, it was like an easy thing to be like, I'm a grumpy old man about this dumb thing, right? And so like Warlocks, because it's like, I don't like my patron, it's like, now you know how you feel about so many power structures and about like organized religion and like all these things, right? It's an easy way in. So it does have that. That is the bright side of those traps, pitfalls.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's weird, right? It's to that point. The bright side. It's like a lot of juice to squeeze there, right? Like a lot of juice in that berry, you know. But also a lot of potential pitfalls in it. So it's just like, I think that's why, again, just to go back to that word, it's like, it's very charged. I just think that like it's just kind of built into it, which, you know, to your point, like can be really interesting and fun, I think, for new players. But I would say, like, if you're a new player and you want to play a Warlock, I would say do it with an experienced DM. Like, or, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, and like, if that situation's reversed, I don't think that's going to work. I just don't. I don't think it'll go well.
It's gonna
because
be
I don't
tough.
think I don't think if you're an experienced player and you want to explore the nuance of that, you need a peer and a partner in that experience. In as far as like the just like the conscientiousness with which you, I just think you just gotta
got
do
traps.
it. You know,
it's just got traps, because I think the DM too can be suckered into. Oh, I get to do this like manipulation thing. I get to be this like spooky, snarling villain, and like that's so fun. But now it's like, okay, I guess that's the main villain of the campaign, because you're gonna have like 3 different snarling villains? No, you just get the one, really, if you wanted to have any significance narratively. So it's a little bit of a trap that way.
And you know, it makes there's a gravitational force there that tends to pull a storyline in that direction. And now, like, you know, you can I think, like, interestingly enough, I think that, you know, if you're going to play a Warlock, my advice would be like to have the patron be like a very maybe separate from the main quest, as like a hedge against maybe that pitfall, right? And you know, like it can work. I've seen it done incredibly well, but I've also seen it done very poorly. And even for an experienced DM, it's hard to navigate. And it like, you know, our experience with it, like it was charged, and it was like, it took a lot of conversations and a lot of like really honest, like, okay, you know, is this now like, I didn't want it to become a main thrust of the campaign, because I was like, I have an idea for where I want the campaign to go. But you also have to give it the weight and the narrative.
It had just been built up. I think this is let's watch the clip, just so this feels like a good juncture, a jump off point for us to kind of discuss Zarel. And
that fucking guy.
and their nefarious nature.
Did I not move it over?
All right.
Seamlessly transition.
Seamless transition. Well done. All
Here
right.
we go.
What is it that you think you could possibly provide me that I would want?
Well, you like Flynn, don't you?
He's useful.
Aye, as are the rest of us. In fact, I'd wager we're among the most capable people in all of Elbor. There seems to be something awry in the weave. I assume that when that change takes place, you're going to want to have solid ground under your feet. I propose that we can make that possible.
I only wish for a place for all of us to call home. Perhaps we are aligned, after all.
Let us find our own way to do it.
That requires trust.
It does.
Oh man.
Which this is an interesting. This is the juncture where Kellic has summoned Zarel into the consular chamber in the Temple of Famir.
Yup.
And Zarel is polluting up the place with all his shadows.
Yeah, he is.
And this is the reason that I pulled this was because I think it's like the moment where you as a DM are doing that folding, are finding the way that we can answer all these questions, meet all of these expectations that are built into the Warlock class, while not derailing the main plot of the campaign.
Yes, and that was my goal.
Yeah.
In you know, when I because you know, super candidly, right? I inherited this.
Yeah.
Right? Like Ethan,
Tough freaking
had
game, dude.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, what, like 10 episodes, I think, before I joined the show.
Very close to when you
then,
joined. Yeah.
And then, you know, 13, or like I took over then 4 episodes after that. Because I think I was a player for 4 episodes, 112 to 116.
I believe so,
and
yeah,
then
that sounds
117,
right.
I took over as the DM.
Yeah.
Because, I think Brim appears at the end of 112, and then I
Take over at the end of 116. Yep.
And, you know, this Warlock pact had been made, but it was, there was this idea that you know, it was the same thing as Flynn had originally unwillingly contracted with as a result of the crystal shatter or whatever. Very early on, like episode 10.
Yes and no. So the crystal shatters.
Yeah.
Flynn gets this like other being in his head, right? Which is one of the original prisoners in the prison crystal, and it makes him an offer.
Right.
And then we're in the Underdark 100 episodes later.
Yes.
And he reaches out to try and receive an offer.
Yeah.
But presumably from this creature. But that creature is still locked away in Hayfried's void.
Yes.
So some other entity answers the call, right? Then that ends up being our boy Zarel.
Yeah. Well, and that was the challenge, I guess, right? Was like, okay, it happened, which, you know, we spoke about this in one of the earlier episodes, like, but this idea that, like, especially in this format, right? Like you just like, okay, that's a thing now, right? It happened. So it's like, okay, now how do we
you can't retcon it.
Yeah, you can't retcon it. So how do we make it work while still continuing to tell an
honor
interesting
the story
story
we're telling, you know, honor all the things that we've kind of set up and we've put into place. These are things the characters care about a lot. Which is the unfortunate, like, this was the hardest talk about difficult terrain. I felt as a performer that this, you know, 30 episode arc or whatever, however long it was that we were doing this, I was moving at half speed because I was just like shouldering this weight of like feeling like Kellic, you know, was deeply invested in this, couldn't pivot from it, couldn't hand wave it. But me as a player, and as like somebody wanting the show to be a fluid, fast-moving thing, like it hurt. It was hard work. There
was a lot of friction, I think, with the concept of it, and it's just like it was, and because of all those things, right? Like you said, it was like, well, we had to honor it, but we did, and like I didn't want it to become the main thrust of the campaign because we were already. And I think we've spoken to this in the past, but it felt like we were already kind of a little lost in the sauce at a point there, right? Like from a narrative perspective, because it was like we were wrapping up an arc. We didn't really know where we wanted to go to next. There was this, you know, this, what's it called? Sort of Damocles of the Warlock Pact sort of hanging over our head. And it was like, okay, well, how do I resolve it? How do I make sure everybody has stakes in it, right? So that it doesn't become this like solo adventure thing, right? How do we keep, you know, Russ and Flynn at the table, right? And then again, like, how do we anchor it in the story? Make sure it doesn't become the main thing, but also make it sure it like has a narrative weight to it. And it felt like it was a hairy problem, right? Or not a problem, but it was a hairy.
It's a knot.
Thing.
It's a knot to untie,
it was a knot,
right?
And so the and to your point, right? It was like, well. You know, going back to an earlier thing that we talked about, right? It was like, why? Right? Like, why? Okay, well, it happened. Why? What does any entity have to gain by fulfilling this? Well, and then to Kellic's point, he makes like, we're very capable people. And you guys were like 11, 12, starting to get into that Heroes of the Realm. You know, you're starting to make a splash, right? And it's like, okay, well, what kind of thing maybe is long visioned enough, right? Has enough runway mentally. And I'm like, well, something pretty powerful, but something that also has its own machinations and reasons for maybe plucking something like that out of a crowd.
And I will say, to give you your flowers, like a well executed thing with this like very like chaotic good party, making it so it wasn't like unstomachable by the
outright
heroes.
evil.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that was the other.
That's such a challenge.
That was the
right?
other thing.
It's not like you could be like, well, kill
it's a
this
demon, or a devil. Like it can't be like outright evil, because I think we had like an above table conversation, like I think you, Russ, and I.
Yeah.
And one of the kind
we
of
talked
like
a lot
conditions was
yeah.
like, well, it can't be something that is outright evil.
Yeah.
Because then like, how do we as players, right, like deal with the verisimilitude of like, well, there's this fucking time bomb. Like, what is it going to make you wake up and murder all of us one day, right? So that was like, it's like we had to make it evil enough to compel you guys to do something about it, but like, and you guys didn't know what it was. Like, only I knew what it was. And well, I formulated what it was pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then, I was like, okay, what if it was this? Like, what if it was a creature that is objectively, bad, but not like unconscionably evil.
Right.
That has very selfish motivations.
Right.
But is not like just murdering children wholesale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if it's not
Yeah.
a manifestation of like primal evil.
Right.
And it, and then it was like, well, that's when this sort of story, this idea of like, okay, well, a disgraced angel. Right, that had become a fae that was, in so many ways bound up in what then, and I also wanted it to tie into what was, I wanted the main thrust of the campaign to be, which was this idea of how do we make the Gods' War make sense? What are the stakes? The Divine Covenant, like all of those things. So it was a big knot. It was a big knot.
Yeah, no,
and
major task.
And I think one of the things that I loved though about the process was like that kind of conversation around like, okay, well, how do we make sure that like all of you guys have a vested interest in doing and pursuing this, and giving you guys something to it, right? Or something to go after, like something to chase, something to butt up against, and a reason to want it gone, but not to like drop everything and make it the main thing. Yeah. And that was hard. That was a difficult thing for all of us, I think, really.
Definitely.
And but I ultimately,
and I think like, I don't want to speak for Russ, but I many of the conversations around it that he and I were having were Russ being like, I didn't really want this in the way that it's manifested.
Yeah.
I like just took a gamble kind of, right? And it's like one of those things where it plays out, right? Like you have to find out, you fuck around, find out in D&D, and that's just one of those things where, like in certain ways, the ways that like Famir and Zachariel manifested, like were things I hadn't bargained for, and so there are those features of it where it's like we are in service to the story we're telling, and we're all trying to make sure that we're having fun still. But sometimes you're like, we gotta honor this, like, and we'll try to make it fun, but like we're all gonna have to kind of nose to the grindstone on it,
To your point, it's like trying to make it so that it was an interesting and engaging story to tell, while also trying to deal with the real, like, just like real life constraint of like, well, we're at episode 100 and whatever, right? We're 100 episodes in. Yeah. And now we're introducing this thing that comes, because like I remember I was like, well, I can't just wave it away. Yeah. Because it happened and he got turned into a Dragloth or something, right? So I'm like, okay, well, like you can't just get turned into a demon, right? Like, I mean, unless there was like a gnome in the shadows, like true polymorph, but that also would have felt kind of like, you know what I mean? Like and then I'll drop concentration.
You bastard.
Yeah, right? Like, I guess I could have done that, but it was just like, it was,
at that point, it had grown into something that was like irrevocable, right? Yeah. And it also, this dovetails with certain elements of like, and maybe this is a broader conversation, but like mechanics having narrative impact and importance. Yes. And it's like you're saying, like turn into a Dragloth, like that is mechanically significant. Yes. And so you cannot just ignore the significance of like, suddenly you have all this like insane power, and it's from a stat block that has a certain origin,
Yes.
you know, and like
It's
they're
a demon.
It's a demon. It's like a Glabrizu of the Underdark, basically,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Like, so you.
Dragloths are they're you know, and it was an interesting choice, right? Even the creature was revealing in some ways of like, you know, maybe I don't know if Ethan just was like, oh, Dragloths, those are cool.
Yeah,
but like
they're sick.
Dragloths are, if I remember correctly, I could be remembering this wrong, but being turned into a Dragloth is a punishment.
It's something like that.
Like being turned into a
it's definitely a drow. Yeah, Drider is definitely a punishment.
Is like an honor because you're turned into a spider, I thought.
No.
Or maybe I'm getting those backwards.
You might have it backwards.
Am I missing it?
Because the Trow like worship demons.
Yeah.
And like,
the yokels,
and
which are
like-
like the handmaidens of Lolth, they call them that.
Yeah. They
So-
have romantic relationships with demons.
maybe it is
So
the
I
other
think
way.
Drider's definitely a punishment because it's the
Right.
men, because it's only men that
Oh, they
get
get
turned
turned into
into
Driders. You're right.
Yeah.
Dragloths, it's a thing of honor, and which
Yeah.
like I mean, in a society where like you guys were amongst Drow, in a society where like getting turned into this thing is like an honorific.
Yeah.
Turning him into one was maybe like an interesting
Right.
narrative choice,
Yeah.
right? From
Because we were fighting the Drow.
Yeah, like I mean, you know, try to imagine, right? Like if a bunch of evangelical Christians are like fighting bad guys,
You get
and
turned
then
into
one of them
Jesus.
gets turned into Jesus, or gets turned into like an angel of the
Yeah,
sixth
an angel,
order.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's significant, like culturally.
Yeah.
And so it was like,
Yeah.
well, what would do that? And then like that's, I mean, mechanically speaking, right? Again, speaking of, it's like that's an 8th level spell or
Yeah.
a 9th level spell. That's shape change
Yeah.
or true polymorph. Those are the only 2 spells in the game that can do that.
Right.
Right, like or like literal divine intervention,
Touch of the
right? Like a touch of
divinity,
a touch of something that is well beyond what a PC can do, barring tier 3 play, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's significant, and so it's like, okay, well, fuck, like that's not a wandering guy, you know what I mean? It has to be something that's capable of doing that, and you know, also, and then there's also this whole element of like, well, in a D&D setting, if you call out to the void enough, something calls back,
Right.
right? Like that's also, speaking of like what's charged, like that's built into the game.
Yeah.
Right? Is this idea of like, not always, but
Well,
sometimes.
And I remember, because of the conversation that Flynn had with the creature in the crystal in Hayfried's Void in episode 20 something. Right? It felt, I remember at the time being like, that's got to come back. You know what I mean? Like, as a storyteller, I was like, that's not the last we've heard of that from that demon or whatever, right? Like that from that element. So in many respects, like it was a very like savvy move on Russell's part to do that callback, you know, like and sort of answer that.
Right.
That it's the same way. It's like one of my regrets. You know, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a regret because I'm so proud of how everything turned out.
Yeah.
But one of my regrets for like Kellic in the final moments of the Ages of Repair is that I didn't find an opportunity to use the Benton glass, you know, because it felt like such a setup, right?
Yeah.
The same way.
Kind of a
it's like,
Chekhov's gun that never went off.
that never went off. Yeah. In other respects, it's like, well, Kellic wouldn't. You know? So like, it's kind of like, well, yeah, then it is answered in that way.
Yeah.
Like, what happens when you don't fire Chekhov's gun?
Yeah.
Like, does that have story significance?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it's one of those things where you want to answer. You don't want to set up mystery boxes and not answer them, not open them, you know, or not find anything inside.
That's an interesting point, right? Is like, well, we didn't use it, but at the same time, like, if for some reason, I don't know why this popped into my head, but it kind of reminds me of like the end of Harry Potter when Harry, and I don't know if he does this in the books, but in the movies, it was an interesting choice that he like breaks it and chucks it into the ravine outside of Hogwarts. He like never uses it. He never. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in the world, this thing that's super powerful. And that has brought with it a lot of cost to the people who have borne it.
Right.
And so, like, there's maybe, I think there's an interesting argument to be made there that, like you said, like, no, I think it, like, depending on how you frame it, like it's very narratively satisfying to me that Kellic he stuck by that principle.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, no, like we don't do this.
Yeah.
It's not for us to do. Right.
Yeah.
Like there's too high, some costs are too high to pay.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting foil to the entirety of like the Warlock arc. Right.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, something that Atir said to Flynn at the end as a reflection of his character's growth. Is like, some knowledge bears too high a cost. Right.
Yeah.
And you know, that was my DM way of alluding to like, yeah, you did some shit you should not have done. You know what I mean? And you learn from it, hopefully, right? And you grow. Like some knowledge is not meant to be known or shared, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and like, you know, there was, God, we could go on about this forever, but like, I remember there was a contemplation. I'm like, well, shit, is it Vasronoth? It was it Vasronoth that made that pact in the Underdark. But then we run into that issue of like, well,
that's now the main
kind
antagonist,
of like that's
right?
the main antagonist, and it's coming in late game, and that presents again some problems that I didn't want to try to navigate as far as like the weight of, you know, where the story goes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
this is something I've brought up before that I think like you handled miraculously, frankly.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. That like as the DM, you decide what gravity is.
Yeah.
Like the world is what you decide. And so, and you had this situation where two of the players had like put it all on black and put it all on red, right?
Yeah.
Like where like, you know, Flynn is like, gravity goes up, and Kellick's like, gravity goes down, and really gravity is just the mass between two objects, or two masses being pulled toward one another, right? And so you had to define that in a way that we could both maintain our sovereignty and the meaning of our characters' investments in things, right? Like where it wasn't like, because there is an element of, and this is hotly contested among the community, and you know, to this day among like me and Russ, but like whether or not Flynn needed to take the pact in order for us to win the day, right? That like, well, we will never know how it would have turned out if he hadn't, right? But this is like this thing where we were all playing the dramatic circumstances of the event, so Flynn did the thing, and then it's all about the fallout after the fact, right? But if you, the DM, decide that he absolutely had to, now Kellick is wholly committed to something that is objectively wrong, and that has narrative consequence. And it has a consequence to me as a player, because now I feel like a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? There is like there is an element of that where it's like, you know, there's one thing with like Famir not being a god, right? That's an easy enough turn to make, because it's like, well, I still like her. You know, she didn't turn out to be something. She still stood for something. Yeah, exactly. But it's a different thing if it's like, oh, I've staked it all on certain realities being true, right? And then those things are not true in a way, the same way that like certain, and I think this is a consequence of like Ethan's unique approach to things, like, okay, in Elbor, mind flayers are servile or whatever, right? Which is something that we kind of like teased out by the end of the campaign, like why that was. But it was like me as somebody who comes from like being steeped in the Forgotten Realms lore, I was like, okay, well, that's not true. Right. I was like, but gravity goes down. Like it was like for me in my mind. And so there are certain things that I'd kind of invested in as a player that, you know, transparently, like Ethan and I should have talked about. Right. You know? And that's a failing on my part, and just sort of like a lesson learned in the course of like creating the show. Just to tie that in a knot, like it is so important that you try to maintain a reality that is reliable for the players, so that they know which way is up when they are, because like it's one thing as a player to create a character who is wrong, and to know that, and it's another thing entirely to be like, no, my character's right, and to not be right, like, and to be like, but I was basing it on all the evidence that you had given us as a DM, right? And now it's wrong, and I feel jilted. I feel rug pulled, you know?
And we spoke about this in the agency episode. Right? Where it's like, there is like, you have to know when you can do that and when you can't as a DM, right? It's like this idea that, you know, like you can mess with your players' perceptions of what is true in the world. But there's like kind of a nebulous area there. I don't even know if it's nebulous, but there feels like a distinction between like the good faith element of that, where it's like, hey, in world there might be some things that are incorrect, versus like, well, but like above table, like the conversations that we had around this character and what I wanted from it, like that now feels like it was a rug pull, right? Like there's a distinction there.
It is,
that I totally understand is like, hey, like, you know, even if you get to go from the beginning, right? Like if it would have been set up like, hey, be dedicated to this god, but I just want to let you know there's probably some big surprises coming down the line as far as the nature of divinity in this world.
Yeah.
So like, are you prepared to fuck with that?
I did know that.
Right. Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
you know what I
Right.
mean?
Which
Like,
is good. Yeah.
That was good. Yeah.
But like, there's elements where that can go. It can go sideways on you, right? And then you're left with this experience of like this feeling, right, that doesn't feel great. Of like, well, but I based my character around. I mean, we hear about this in like I think popular media sometimes, right, where like actors get very upset, or rather like have things to say about like a character's arc in a show because it goes against everything that they've done to build that character.
Yeah.
Right. Like I love the show West Wing, and Richard Schiff, I think famously was not thrilled about the ending of Toby Ziegler in the show because he was like, it's antithetical to everything that we did for 7 seasons of Toby Ziegler. Like the thing that he does in the end
was in violation of
it was a violation of like everything that he was and what he stood for. And so that feels kind of like a betrayal in a way.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that is really interesting to navigate, very difficult to navigate. And that was like a lot of the conversations that I do remember having was like, okay, or not even conversations, but like, I remember I was like, okay, like what are our guideposts here? Like, what are we prepared to be okay with me messing with in the service of like trying to make this all work and make sure that gravity is, you know, consistent, right?
Yeah.
And that was an interesting one. And so like to try to tie it all up here, because I know we got to bring Rebecca in here soon. It was like there's this element of I think I phrased it as like, how can I check as many win conditions as I can?
Right.
I think I said that actually. I was like, I want us to, as a group, right? I want us to check as many win conditions as we can, but there's gonna be some stuff where someone loses.
We're gonna sacrifice
because that's
stuff.
just the position we're in, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, I like without spoiling anything for you guys, I think, you know, like I remember telling Russ, I was like, hey, this is the thing that you're just going to have to square. And like, you're going to have to figure it out, okay? Because like, I need to do this. And he was like, okay. And I think I had to tell you, I was like, all right, this is the thing that you're just going to have to square. And I'm really sorry, and it kind of sucks. But like, in order for my then vision to go where I wanted it to go, and that was weird because it's like that constant struggle of like, how do I communicate this without giving it away and making sure that you guys still get to like enjoy the story and be surprised
the thing
while also trying to build that, make sure that trust is there, and you know, and it was like, it was
just like Zarel says, that requires trust.
Yeah, right. Like, that requires trust, right? And you know, I think that one of the things through a lot of conversations, right, and then now, you know, I think the evidence of like, well, we did it. And it's interesting because like for us, I think a lot of that was very fraught, right? In just like the nature of the story we're trying to tell. But it's interesting because I think our community like loves so much of what happened, which again just goes to that point of like, you really don't know what people are going to attach to or what they're going to find compelling and interesting.
Well, and I think because we're invested in it, it becomes important. It feels
no matter
important.
what the outcome. In so
and that's the
ways.
advantage of just all of us caring and that being on display.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's
so.
Very, very
in
true.
conclusion,
Yeah,
Warlocks.
Yeah,
am I right,
dude? It's like I said, very charged. Especially bringing them in late game. I can't say I'd recommend it. It's
Rebecca!
hard. But that is I mean, we'll figure. I mean, like I said, we'll figure out what our story is based on, because
I think we've missed our window.
Yeah.
Hello.
Seamless transition.
Seamless transition. That'd be great. Personal request from Seth.
Nothing ever happened.
Nothing
You'll
ever.
never know.
Yep.
Beautiful.
All right. We got a D&D horror story featuring
We've got
Warlocks.
Am I the
Am I the asshole?
today?
Okay. All right.
Am I the asshole?
If you have an Am I the asshole about Warlocks, maybe even if you want, whatever, or anything,
send it our way.
Anything D&D related.
adventurefordd@gmail.com. Although, it probably won't. We'll see. We'll see if we can get to them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Am I the asshole for wanting to kill a disruptive and toxic PC?
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. Ah!
Shit.
Also, I forgot to do the clapboard.
Okay. Oh, goodness. All right. Can we keep all of that?
Sure.
Seamless transition. All right. Am I the asshole for what now?
For wanting to kill a disruptive and toxic player. Ba-ba-bam.
No, you're not the asshole.
Yeah.
Green flag, kill
green
them.
flag, kill them. All right. Who knows?
Okay.
We'll see.
I know that the story and flow is really up to the DM in most cases,
True.
but I can no longer stand this one PC, a Warlock Rogue multiclass, whom continues to cause active harm to the party. We play D&D 5e, and we are all close friends for the most part. However, he refuses to listen to anyone on any matter, quoting the famous line, "It's what my character would do."
Fucking.
Don't you fucking dare.
The worst part, the DM caters to his behavior.
Devastating.
He has been the cause of about 3 arcs at this point in our over a year-long campaign. He is so front and center that another person that joined in a bit later left because they felt like it was too focused on him. For the longest time, it didn't bother me. But as he has started to drift from chaotic neutral to an actual serial murderer, I have become less entertained by his idiocy?
Idiocy? Idiocy?
Idiocy?
Velocity?
Idiocy?
Idiocy.
He desires power for his character above all else, thinking if he is not the most powerful in the group, there is something wrong. He is constantly taking any and all loot from fights before others can get there because he has a homebrew race that allows him to double his movement speed when going towards a creature that is anywhere from 50% to 0 hit points. The only reason the party is ever able to get items is because we get gold from the quests we go on. The caveat: while others will go do quests, he will decide to murder the innocent. An example is when my character took a job for the group, with other people's approval, to help a town retrieve a crystal. This crystal turned out to be very important as it was what kept them alive. He first stole it, gave it to an archdevil, then he burned down the village. The cherry on top is while I was saving children from the burning wreckage, he started to kill them. I was told I couldn't go back while holding 2 children in my arms, moving them out of the wreckage. He killed all of the children, and the DM then shot us into a battle with demons. This is when I first started planning this kill. Since that point, we all got sent to the Shadowfell because of him. The DM gave him a whole redemption arc where he failed over and over again. We eventually fought our way out because we were on an important quest to save the world from a divine war, and we are on a time crunch. He was given a magical weapon as a prize, and when he made his 4th deal with the 4th powerful being we met, this gave him a homebrew weapon that gave him a morality compass, counting the times he does good and bad things. It also had an anti-magic effect that disabled his current items and any other items he would equip or touch. Hence, the next arc, where he ended up on a murder mystery because he killed a creature made of magic that also happened to be akin to a mother to another player. We were playing fake Clueless for 2.5 months because we aren't supposed to use knowledge our characters wouldn't have access to. He lied to every character repeatedly and then killed more to hide his tracks. The DM still urged us not to kill him. After we continued to an area that led to a fight holding a magical item that was semi-designed for my character, but also wasn't even made because the DM expected said PC to deplete the magic before anyone got a chance to even look at it, the DM forgot I had just taken the observant feat, and when I asked if I saw the items, he asked my passive perception with a sneer, only to be met with a 27. He was annoyed I saw the items, and the PC almost depleted both of them before I took one. When I told the PC and the player that I would kill them if they kept getting in the way of the party, I was chastised by the party for infighting. Well, as of tonight, he has killed many important NPCs, and today's session has officially tipped me over. He killed a beloved NPC for more power. For context, this NPC has been an ally to us the whole time and was still aiding us. He was told he would get more power if he killed her, so he killed her during our long rest. My assumption on time. I don't understand that parenthetical, but that's okay. Grammar's hard. Hence another murder mystery, except this time he had been sloppy with his character and let on that he had accomplished destroying the vessel he needed. This NPC has fought wars, gods, and so much more with us, and the fact that he killed her makes me so angry. Me and the party fighter both wanted to kill him. The party fighter has wanted him to die since he killed a goblin child that the fighter saved from him, which was later killed by a PC in the fighter's arms. In addition, our artificer hasn't been able to get a single magic item since she joined because of him. She has asked him not to drain the magic from stuff or to let her go buy items before draining the magic and killing the shopkeep. He just keeps saying that he can't because his character wouldn't do that. Or just his plethora of kills because it's what my character would do. I told the DM earlier I will be killing the PC next week, and he tells me he won't allow it, threatening to bring in the game's actual gods to prevent me from executing the PC, who has killed party members, attacked us, steals from us, puts us in bad situation, and overall harms the party. He doesn't know 2 other players feel the same way, and plans on helping me kill him, and plan on helping me kill him over the next week. Over the course of the combat encounter we had today, I took notes on what he was rolling to be able to tell his modifiers, damage types, and resistances. After everything we have a plan to kill him, whether or not my DM wants us to. Once again, to the DM, the DM is blatantly aware he is in trouble. Why else would he give someone a morality compass as an item? Not to mention, he himself has admitted wanting to put us in a combat session when our cleric isn't there to make sure that the PC dies permanently. So I ask, am I the asshole for wanting to execute another player's character at my table?
No.
No, you're not an asshole for wanting to do that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, given if everything that has been reported is true. It's so funny how many of these things we kind of talked about, and they felt very relevant. Yeah. Because it is just like, this to me, there's so many red flags, right? And one of the main things that I pulled from this is something that I think I hear a lot about, which is like when I'm talking to other players and even other like candidly, transparently D&D content creators I talk to, where it's wielding the game mechanics against your fellow players in DM.
Yep.
Right? Where it's like, if I can create this build, I can defeat my teammates. I can defeat, and also my DM. Like sometimes there is this like thing where, and then DMs in response, or maybe this is the DM's fault for setting up this paradigm, right? But the DMs now being like, well, I have to create a counterbalance on the flip side. It's like, it's more akin to the DM designing a bullet hell and the players like creating a build to like deal with the bullet hell than anything that in my mind is what D&D is about, which is a thing that is reacting in real time and moving like water around a stone in the river. Not even, I'm just being silly and doing a dumb metaphor, but something that is fluid and ever changing and ever adapting to one another and working in harmony, I guess is what I'm really trying to say. As opposed to this weird like stiff conflict, right? Where it's like we're all scheming to try and defeat each other. Like it just feels so contrary to what the game is about for me personally.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, right? I'm a pretty firm believer that there is no way to there's not a wrong way to play D&D because it's ultimately it's a vehicle for whatever you guys want to engage with inside of the game. Like the game can be a combat simulator if that's what you want it to be. What you're doing? You can tweak and go build your coffee locks and your Sorkadins and your all of the optimized super meta builds, Polearm Master, Great Weapon Master, fucking Drow, Echo Knight Fighter 2, Divination Wizard 2 with the lucky feet. Like I know how to do it, but like I don't wanna. You know what I mean? Like, and some people do, and they enjoy the shit out of that, and that's fine. The problems always arise when you have somebody trying to do that and somebody trying to do something totally different. Right? It's all about like, what are we all on board to do here, gang? Because like if we want to do that, we can do that. Like I've had to have this conversation at the table where I stopped to play. I was mid-session and I stopped and I was like, hang on. What kind of game are we playing here? Because I literally had to be like, all right, hang on. I got to pause what's going on. Because I was like, what kind of game are we playing? Because like, if we're playing the murder hobos run around and we're using magic to coerce and bully everybody we come across, sure, I'll go make a trash meme character. But like, I made a character I really like and I don't want to fucking waste him here. And like, and everybody was like, whoa. And I was like, I'm just saying, like, that's my, like, That's what I came for.
Right.
And the other player was like, oh, and then we kind of achieved a middle ground. But anyway,
Yeah.
all that to say,
that's
like,
so important to be
this
able to
is
do, right?
Like that, it sounds like you got one person at the table who's trying to do a very specific thing, and everybody else hates it.
Yeah,
And,
except for
God,
maybe
there's
the
so many red
DM
flags.
though, right?
But
and that's where it's
and it
like,
sounds like the
this table
DM's
needs like an
enabling it.
intervention,
Yes.
right? Like where it's like somebody's got to do that mediation and be
Yeah.
like, what are we all? What are all of our win conditions?
Yes.
Right? How do we all have fun playing this?
Yeah.
And not just you guys and not just us guys,
Yeah.
right? Because clearly, like some of us like care a lot about like saving the goblin children
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which is a power fantasy.
Yeah.
Right?
Of
There's the power
course.
fantasy of like, I'm in Skyrim and I can hide from the guards and I can kill them literally and fill my soul gems,
Yeah.
right? Because I have an optimized assassin build or
Yeah.
whatever, and I can hide in plain sight and kill whoever I want, whenever I want,
Yes.
and never suffer consequences. Like, sure, that's a power fantasy. D&D, there's a way to do that,
There's
right?
a table that plays
There's a table
way,
that
and
wants
that's
to do
fine.
that, and a DM that loves trying to defeat that and figuring out those mechanics.
Yeah.
And then there's this other power fantasy, which is being a genuine hero.
Yes. Like, how can we affect massive
what if
change?
I could actually help people?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, in a way that felt like tangible and immediate,
Yes.
right? Because obviously you can do those things in the real world, but D&D, you have magical powers
yes.
to do so.
Yeah,
right?
and it's a story. Like
Yeah.
we're trying to give ourselves. I think we talked about this. Like D&D in so many ways is aspirational.
Yeah.
There's like, man, how cool would it be
Right.
if I could just show up to Congress and be like, fucking fix your shit. You know what I mean? Like, how cool would that
Yeah,
be, right?
yeah.
But it's so funny because like in the episode we talked about all of the pitfalls, right, that come with playing a Warlock, and like they literally fell into all of them. Like it's just like you know, like super power gaming, check.
Yeah.
Like the multiple bargains, right? Like
Yeah,
check.
yeah.
Like the idea
It becoming the main
they're becoming the
story.
main thrust of
Yep.
the whole story.
Yep.
Check. Like now we're on this. We're in the Shadowfell now because of this guy. Check.
Yep.
Like there's just so all of those pitfalls are exactly the thing we
it's
talked
that inevitable thing of like, if it is an evil contract,
Yes.
then not only do you have to like go through the motions of all that and
Yeah.
establish all of that,
Yeah.
but now you also have to do the redemption arc.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's multiple arcs
Yeah.
for one character.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing, because you don't always have time for all that shit.
Mhm. And then you end up with like ultimately, and like it is true of every D&D table. Like I said, like I've never gotten the balance right. I don't think any DM ever gets it just right. Every published format of D&D that I've ever seen, someone gets more weight than others
Yeah.
because of just like a multitude of reasons, right? Like I as a DM maybe gravitate towards a character story more. And
Yeah.
it's more interesting and
It
appealing to
feels
me.
more, yeah.
It's more in line with the thrust of the main quest. It's more in like there's so many reasons it can happen. No
Yeah.
one ever gets the balance. It's never going to be like, okay, you each get 25% of the time on screen. Like it
Yeah.
never works that way.
Yeah, I think it also has a
But-
lot to do with what the players are bringing, right?
Yep.
Because like sometimes, it's a Matt Colville thing.
Yep.
Some players are just happy to be there,
Yep.
right? So they're okay not taking up the center spotlight, and they're and you are doing a disservice to them to like be throwing to them all the time.
Yeah.
Right. You want to make sure that you have a comfortable amount of like, hey, are you getting enough attention? Am I giving you enough attention? And then it's like, yeah, then we have this other story. We can play it out.
Yeah, and that's a tricky line to balance. But sorry, do we
what's
have
up,
an update?
Rebecca?
Would you guys like an update
Oh,
on
shit.
what
There's an
happened?
This is like that kitchen
This
nightmare
is an
thing where they
update.
fast forward and you
Revisit
find
1
out
year
how.
later or whatever. Yeah, all right, let's hear the update.
Did they sell the restaurant?
Yeah.
This is my TLDR because it's another journey.
Oh,
but my
okay.
TLDR
Yes,
is
thank you.
the DM did magic a way for them not to kill the player, the PC.
Oof.
But the Warlock did choose to do something shitty after this big fight, and because he was already super low health, the ranger did kill him. But the cleric was there and revived him. And then there was some nonsense with his patron where they killed each other and he basically sacrificed himself to his patron. And so he rolled up a new character, and this is where we're going to jump in. Now, with his character dead, he re-rolled a sheet and made a mistreated cleric who only wanted to help people.
Oh,
His
come
character
on.
only ever cast healing magic.
No more gods.
And yes, he healed enemies we were actively fighting as well.
This guy sounds like a prick.
He
sucks.
is no longer
is
invited
the
to
asshole.
our game or
Yes.
my home.
Yeah.
Wow,
He's the asshole.
yeah,
That guy's an
guy
asshole.
is the asshole.
That
for
guy is
sure.
an absolute asshole.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Do not use D&D to inflict your shit
on everybody else.
other people.
People at the table should not be collateral damage for
It's
your
not
whatever.
a system for you to inflict yourself on people.
That guy needs to go play Baldur's Gate and fucking leave it alone.
And cheese his way through anything.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
No, you're not an asshole. You sound, honestly, like I'm surprised. Dude, I'd have lost patience.
Yeah.
I got to met the end of my patience a whole lot sooner.
I
like,
think so. Definitely. I
so
would
bless
not.
you, bless you for putting up with it for as long as you did.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
no,
for trying.
not the asshole.
It's a genuine
That
thing.
guy sounds like he can. Yeah, that guy can go pound sand.
So this has been Mastering the Game
with Seth
and Shane, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye, nerds.
Bye.
Bye,
And
nerds.
Rebecca.
And
Don't forget about
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Our
Rebecca
next-
was here too.
The voice of God.